In August 2023, Ruby Frankie was arrested on child abuse charges. I was worried that because of my behavior, my family wasn't going to be together in heaven. Hi, I'm Lyn Smith Gregory. I'm so glad you've joined us. Welcome to Heretic Survivor from Mormon to Me. I'm Lyn Smith Gregory, the great-great-grandniece of Joseph Smith, the guy who started the Mormon Church. And I'd like to welcome you today. We're digging into a difficult subject, the impact of religious upbringing in high control, high demand religions and parenting philosophies. It may be a little difficult, some of the material, so I'm just warning you in advance, but I'm glad you're here. We're examining these things through the lens of the Ruby Franke case. Her daughter, Sherry Frankie, just released a memoir called The House of My Mother. We've all seen the images of perfect families, especially perfect Mormon families, all lined up in their matching church clothes and getting their pictures taken outside the temple. But we know that these perfect moments often hide a darker story underneath. This story is personal to me. I lived with fear running as the soundtrack underneath my childhood. It made me hypervigilant and always aware of my father's tempestuous and often violent moods. And I had to develop the survivor skills to survive in such an environment. In our home, it was the belt or the switch that was used for our spankings, and it was always delivered with the attitude that it was for our own good, that we had failed to measure up to a certain level of righteousness, and we were being sinful when we didn't measure up to expectations or made a mistake or failed to deliver. It wasn't just the physical abuse, it was also the message that was delivered, verbal abuse, shaming, being told we weren't worthy enough to be Smiths, that we weren't living up to the blessings of our legacy. And I felt like a bad person. It was very shame-based. And my mother wasn't allowed to intervene because this was a Mormon household, and in Mormon households, the patriarch is king. Today we're doing a deep dive into what happens when religious beliefs meet parenting challenges and how that can create a righteous mindset that can be extremely harmful. Whether you're trying to come to terms with your own religious upbringing or change generational patterns, or maybe you just want to better understand how a parenting vlogger like Ruby Frankie veered into child abuse with, according to her, religious intentions of raising her children in righteousness. In August 2023, Ruby Frankie was arrested on child abuse charges. You probably heard something about this story. Ruby Frankie was a parenting vlogger with over 2 million followers. And she regularly featured content about strict parenting practices that eventually veered into child abuse. And it's about those patterns, why religious upbringing and religion can play such a role in parenting discipline. First, let's define what I mean by a religious mindset. This is about loving parents who believe that their harmful actions are spiritual necessities. I know my father loved me, and that he was only doing what he thought would keep me on the straight and narrow and save my soul. But of course, that's not how it felt, even though I know his intentions were righteous. In Mormon culture, this stems from 3 core beliefs. 1, that parents are the stewards of their children and responsible for their salvation. 2, that the natural man is an enemy to God. And 3, that obedience is the first law of heaven. When you combine these beliefs with the intense pressure of eternal families, this can create the perfect storm of abuse in parenting practices. Mormons believe for time and all eternity. When parents face the responsibility or bear the responsibility for their children's eternal salvation, ordinary decisions, parenting decisions can turn into spiritual warfare. Think about it. If you felt like your child's eternal salvation depended on whether or not you allowed them to wear a tank top or drink a cup of coffee, wouldn't you do everything in your power to prevent it? It makes sense when you look at it from that mindset. This plays out in what I call the hierarchy in the Mormon Church. God, the prophet, the priesthood, the parent, the child. And this hierarchy creates a situation where who are you to question God himself? One of my friends said that her mother always said, "The Spirit told me you were lying." How do you argue with that? The spiritual manipulation takes many forms. Using patriarchal blessings as a way to enforce your children's choices, or temple worthiness interviews, and threatening eternal family separation. The guilt and shame I felt at being a bad kid occasionally, or making a mistake, or screwing up, I was worried that because of my behavior, my family wasn't going to be together in heaven. If you're recognizing this pattern in your family of origin, or even your own behavior, that's the first step, recognizing the pattern. Watch or listen for red flags. The Spirit told me. Don't you want to be with your family eternally? I'm only doing this for your own good. Breaking this cycle isn't easy. It's about completely reframing issues of parenting and spirituality. Even though I had left the Mormon Church years before I had children, when I did, I realized I didn't have a role model for parenting that I wanted to follow. The fear of repeating the cycle was intense. Would I know how to be an authoritative parent without being too harsh with my judgment and punishment? Would I know how to show love when I didn't have that experience as a child myself? I read every parenting book I could get my hands on, but what really changed things for me was discovering a parenting program called Becoming a Love and Logic Parent, and it still exists today. Here was a program that was a complete opposite of what I experienced, where empathy, logical consequences, and maintaining the dignity of the child ruled. The core principle at play here that surprised me was that punishment doesn't have to hurt to be effective. In fact, it's better if it doesn't. While I was raised with fear, I learned to give my children empathy, and instead of harsh punishment, to let logical consequences play out. It took a while practicing what I learned in class, but I learned to parent not from a place of fear and anger, but empathy, choices, and allowing my children the opportunity to learn from their mistakes. Eventually, I was so excited about the program, I decided to become a Love and Logic facilitator and became a parent educator, bringing these Love and Logic classes to parents in my city. But it was more than just a parenting program. It was a paradigm shift. Instead of my children walking on eggshells like I did, they had a safe and supportive environment. Learning different parenting techniques and skills allowed me to break free from the righteous mindset. I'm happy to report that today I cherish my relationships, my close relationships with my grown-up children. They like to come home, not because they're obligated to, or they're afraid of being shamed or judged if they don't, but because they enjoy being home. And that is a huge gift for me from this program. A few of my suggestions are to find a therapist who specializes in religious trauma to unpack how it impacts every aspect of our lives, including parenting. Look into parent education programs such as the one I did, Love and Logic. I've provided the link below. Find other parent support groups to discuss how other parents handle challenges that we all face as parents, and set healthy boundaries with other family members. If you feel comfortable, share in the comments about your own experience. It may help someone else not feel so alone. And please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep updated on the next video as we talk about how we can set healthy boundaries with still believing family members and maintain those relationships if we choose to. I'd love to hear about your experiences. Please share, join our community, and I promise to get back to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. Please take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.